So basically, within the Shia community, this is a community within the community, which I really don't know much about. But I think they're called the Bohra community. And essentially, one of their imams, he is a ardent advocate for FGM. And basically, there's a massive protest in London happening to basically say he shouldn't have even been given a visa to come to the UK because of his views of FGM, and that like hundreds of girls are now at risk because of the rhetoric that he preaches. So I'll just read the article for you and then show the protest link. So Bohra Imam's visit puts British girls at risk of mutilation, warn FGM campaigners. Dawoodi Bohra leader Mufaddal Saifuddin, who is in the UK to preach, is an advocate of the abusive practice whose visa should be revoked, says activists. Campaigners have criticised the UK government for granting a visa to a religious leader who has advocated for female genital mutilation. Mufaddal Saifuddin, who is the Sayyidna or leader of the Dawoodi Bohra community, a sect of Shia Islam with 1.2 million followers worldwide, will give sermons in front of tens of thousands of people at Northolt Mosque in London between 29th July and 7th August. Oh my gosh, the sirens. Okay. A group of anti-FGM activists and survivor-led organisations has written to Liz Truss and Priti Patel, as well as Andy Burnham, Mayor of Manchester, and Sadiq Khan, Mayor of London, calling on the UK government to revoke Saifuddin's visa unless he publicly denounces FGM. Saifuddin, who has publicly stated his support for FGM, was granted a visa despite UK immigration policy prohibiting supporters of the practice from visiting the UK. It is an offence in England and Wales for any person to perform FGM, punishable by up to 14 years in prison and or a fine. Saka Hakasi, the former president of the Dawoodi Bohra Welfare Society, which has been excommunicated from the Dawoodi Bohra community, has approximately 800 members in the UK. So just for some context, this larger Bohra community and then the one within it, the ones who have broken off are viewed as even more cult-like by the mainstream ones, if that makes sense. So the others all view each other as more and more cult-like, and they say that openly, because I spoke to a member of this community, and they openly call them, like they say that they're in a cult. So yeah, that's the excommunicated part. So this is what she said. Given he supports FGM, I don't understand how he can be given a visa to visit the UK because it puts girls at risk. We are flabbergasted. The Home Office said, blah, blah, as it usually does. It did not routinely comment on individual cases. 4 million girls and young women a year are believed to be at risk of being cut around the world, and an estimated 200 million have already been mutilated in a practice that causes lifelong health complications and often leads to the death of victims. In 2015, Saifuddin's office issued letters, look how cheeky this was as well, just to these countries, to his followers in countries where FGM is illegal, including the UK, informing members not to perform the practice. However, in a public sermon a year later, he stated it must be done. Supporters of Saifuddin claimed his remarks had been misinterpreted. And this is actually relevant to your country as well, Haris. The next part here. So in an open letter in 2016, an anti-FGM organization so this is actually within the Bohra community, criticized his comments, noting that his declaration that Bohras must continue the act of FGM, irrespective of opposition from various quarters, indicates that Bohra authorities were not being sincere when they publicly urged congregations to stop the practice. So obviously, this is what we've seen. You just change depending on the audience you're talking to. We've seen scholars and imams do this all the time. So a UK registered charity for which Saifuddin is the corporate trustee spent more than £800,000 on costs incurred in defending 4 members of the Dawoodi Bohra congregation in Sydney in connection with female genital mutilation. In a landmark case in Australia, a Dawoodi Bohra imam, a former midwife, and the victim's mother were all found guilty of mutilating 2 girls. Masuma Ranalvi, who is part of the community in India, basically says it's important for the UK government to take note of the fact that this is a man who is openly perpetuating and propagating a practice which is illegal in the UK. His visit will lead to a resurgence in FGM. We Speak Out is planning a protest outside the mosque in northwest London on Friday, the 5th of August. And then there was some backlash because previously Prince Charles has met him and Sadiq Khan has met him as well, even though Sadiq Khan has had said on this visit he has no intention to meet him. And he basically reiterated that the despicable practice of FGM has absolutely no place in our city. So yeah, basically the girls in the Bohra community are subjected to some of the worst forms of FGM, including type 1, which is the partial or total removal of the clitoral glands and or the clitoral hood. Type 4, which is pricking, piercing, incising, scraping, and cauterizing the female genitals. Obviously, this leads to a whole host of problems. Some of them die, but every single time they're in like a sexual relationship or they're pregnant, it is the most horrendous experience. And again, because the school summer holidays have just started in the UK as well, it's like they're saying that the timing of his visit is really suspicious because it's a time where schools are off for a long period of time. So if a child is taken abroad for various reasons, it's harder for the school to stay on top of it, and it's a lot easier for people to use this summer holiday as an excuse to take girls back home to undergo this process. So obviously, yeah, that's another worry. But basically, this is the protest for anyone that lives in the UK and is really adamant, that FGM cannot be tolerated in this country, especially at the behest of religious leaders timing it in times where like school children, especially from these third world countries. I mean, I hear cases of women taking their daughters saying, I want you to meet your auntie back home. And lo and behold, they're taken to Yemen to get cut. And the school can't do anything about it because it's been in a period where they have no control. So Khatna and FGM is a big deal within the Shia community. And basically, we speak out as an organization that's talking about the protest, saying that Khatna is fundamentally against human rights and like women's rights. So it needs to stop, regardless of where it comes from. This is actually interesting because actual Shia members of this community are actually speaking out against it. But okay, I'm going to stop sharing this now. Haris, how crazy is this? One of a young person from the community who is looking to get married has been told not to be part of this protest because it looks like you are too much for women empowerment and not about what the community requires from you. So that's the level of the mentality that you're dealing with as well. It's just insane. But yeah.
Yeah, and what's troubling is that they still manage to slip past the system. So I spoke about Mufti Uthman Farooq. I didn't push for it, but some people were saying that like he has some problematic statements which he's given, and you say, hang on, but he came to England and he went back, and that just tells you how porous our system is, that people can just constantly slip in and out of it. But this guy is pretty big time apparently, and the fact that so many people had to make hoo-ha about it, and the UK immigration doesn't know about it. The Dawoodi Bohras in India are also are heavy on FGM. Hospitals don't allow it, so they visit local quacks, which is dangerous. Yeah, that's another risk. When it was banned here in the UK, then they were worried that they're gonna do these botched jobs at home, and they're gonna take it to quacks, and they're gonna do it that way. So those of you who I have to bring it up now because a lot of people think that, okay, well, this is just an African problem, or maybe Dawoodi Ibrahimi Bohra community problem. No, there is a hadith, and I'm trying to find that. There is a hadith that actually does say that mention girls hadith circumcision or FGM as well, and Muhammad actually instructs the woman who's doing it. Muhammad says that make sure do not with the girls, make sure you do not cut too deep.
Now, it's exactly like what Andrew Martin has said here. Thanks for that. That's why I opened it as well. There's a hadith about Muhammad watching FGM, and instead of banning it, he merely adds a few words to make it easy for the girl.
Okay, good. Yeah, I'm trying to find that. I think Sunnah.com has deleted that. Do not cut too deep.
And just while Haris finds that, on Imran's asking, are there consequences for the parents when they come back to the UK? Yeah, I mean, if you're found out to be partaking in FGM, aiding it, abetting it, facilitating it, anything in relation to it, it is up to 14 years jail time and a fine. And now they're getting like really, really strict with this. So if they even assume that a girl is at risk or there's been like weird patterns of behavior, from her home life, or long periods of absence from school, or just any concerns that she might have in terms of safeguarding, the courts will issue protection orders and prohibited steps orders. So you actually cannot take that child out of the country, and the courts will hold on to the child's passport as opposed to letting the parents have it, so that they cannot never be taken out of the country for that purpose. So yeah, there are definitely consequences.
If you like these videos and want to support me in my activism, then you can support me on Patreon or PayPal. Stay free, everyone!